It's been a long time coming, but we are finally back. It is season number 13 of the F1 journey. Hope you guys are all doing well and are having a great day. And we are finally back for some Formula 1 action here on the channel. It's been a long time coming. It's been a lot of hard work. A lot of development has been going in, but we are finally here. It's time for pre-season for the F1 journey, and it's season number 13 here on the channel. And that is quite a strange number to be saying. But, of course, over the break, there have been lots of different changes and modifications that are going on for all the teams throughout the course of the break, and also with some brand new liveries, brand new lineups, and all the more stories to unravel. So, without further ado, let's get straight down to the track and showcase who's gone where, what the cars look like, and how they're getting on. Kicking things off with McLaren, and they have decided for the season to opt to change their driver lineup. Oscar Piastri joins back to McLaren, and Charles Leclerc has left Porsche, the champions, and has decided to get himself over to McLaren for this season. So why have McLaren gone ahead and changed their driver lineup, and why is it that Charles Leclerc has decided to leave Porsche and go ahead and join McLaren? Well, first things first, McLaren themselves felt like they needed a change. There's been a lot of hostility around the team within the last few seasons, thanks to the issues that happened in Vegas 2 years ago and the entire internal investigation. Secondly to that, they just felt like that going into this year, things just needed to go on a different pathway after last year didn't really turn out to go as well as they thought, with the driver lineups not really working. Second to that as well, both Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc felt like they needed a change in their career paths after the course of last year. For Oscar Piastri, things were a little bit toxic for him at Aston Martin. 2 years ago, he was the lead man at Aston Martin, and things were going very, very well. He was putting in some expert performances and put in a sensational drive to win the Portuguese Grand Prix 2 years ago, and things were going well. But then since Tom joined the team last season, Piastri's year just definitely got a lot more difficult, with Aston Martin favouring Tom and giving him the better car and effectively developing it in his direction. Things got very tense between Tom and also Oscar Piastri, and in the end, Oscar decided to go. But why would Charles Leclerc opt to leave Porsche after they won the Constructors' Championship? Well, the simple fact of the matter was that Charles just felt like that after Reese managed to win the Drivers' Championship with Porsche during that season, it was almost null and void for him to go ahead and try and compete again, as he felt like Porsche were trying to make Reese their number one driver, but just needed a bit more of an excuse to do it. And with Reese winning the championship, he just felt like the team was looking to stay alongside and protect Reese after Reese joined the team and started the resurgence before Charles Leclerc jumped into the mix. So that's why Leclerc felt like it was a good time to leave, and with McLaren opening the doors to their entire driver lineup, he decided to contact Zach Brown and they got together to sign a deal. So how's pre-season gone for McLaren? Well, things have actually gone quite well for McLaren. The car is definitely very, very decent, and it's performing as they expected. The car is very strong, particularly in the high-speed corners, although there's a little bit of work to do with the car in the low-speed corners, specifically on the front end, as they're struggling to get the car into the corners, especially when braking at low speeds. The straight-line speed of the McLaren is also pretty decent as well, and they feel like they've got a very nice baseline to start them off for the year, so McLaren expect to be competing close towards the front of the field, but of course we're not sure how the other teams are performing. Next up, we're going to look at the Scuderia Ferrari team, and Lewis Hamilton has rejoined Ferrari after opting to leave Mercedes-Benz, which he was driving for the past few years. Lewis Hamilton has already had one stint at Ferrari before, and he's decided to go ahead and have another stint at it after Ferrari opted not to keep Lando Norris, who they had alongside Sam last year. Speaking of Sam, he still stays at the team to continue the reign of making it an all-British red team. But why was it that Lewis Hamilton decided to leave Mercedes and go back to Ferrari where he had been before? Well, Mercedes-Benz are in a very tricky situation because the past year or so have been pretty difficult for the team. They've definitely struggled in this rule set despite the fact that they initially dominated it. When Mercedes had the zero-pod concept, they were the best team on the grid. Nobody could touch them, and Lewis Hamilton actually won the World Championship with that zero-pod concept. Then they decided to go against that concept for the middle of 2 years ago, and Tom was able to come out on top and win the championship. But after Tom then left last season to go to Aston Martin, Hamilton tried to get Mercedes to go in a direction that he felt was similar to where the car was at its best. But it backfired, and the team finished in a lonely 7th in the Constructors' Championship, and Hamilton just felt like the team was going in a direction that he just wasn't really a fan of, and decided that the time was right to move on after seeing success with the team. So that's when Lando Norris, not being able to get a contract with Ferrari, opened the doors to rejoin the Scuderia where Lewis had been before. Sam, on the other hand, believes that Hamilton will provide a perfect balance within the team itself, from a mixture of his experience to also his hardcore racing, which will make it a real challenge for him on the track. Lewis Hamilton is also ready for the fights that he's going to have with his teammate Sam. Of course, both of them are extremely competitive and quick drivers, so the two of them together is definitely going to provide a lot of entertainment for the team. And while this is going to be a difficult lineup in terms of who's going to come out on top, Ferrari are more than confident that the two of them will get along perfectly and there'll be no forms of problems. As for pre-season itself, Ferrari once again continue to look strong in this pre-season shakedown that they've had of their car. They've had plenty of running in the team, and there's not been any form of mechanical or sort of reliability issues going their way. Ferrari have definitely got what they believe is a much more competitive package to start this year off, and they've been able to develop it from the back end of last year. Last year, Ferrari were not in a very good state, and at the start of the season in particular, were really struggling to get on top of their car. But as they went through towards the second half of the season, pretty much towards the area when Sam and Verstappen had their swaps within the team, Ferrari started to pick up form, picking up some victories like in Monza, and this is definitely somewhere that they're trying to go with their car. So they're continuing to improve on it and develop. So with that being said in mind, Ferrari believe like this is going to be the perfect season for them and gives them a bit of reminiscence to Porsche. Of course, Porsche had a difficult start 2 years ago, and then towards the mid part of the season to the back end, definitely improved and were the best team out there. Fast forward then a year later to last season, then all of a sudden, Porsche were the team to beat and they dominated the Constructors' Championship and won the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari are hoping to do the same thing, but the question is, can they actually achieve that? Well, there's only one way to find out. Red Bull Racing have gone a step further than McLaren and Ferrari going into a brand new year. Not only have they also changed their entire driver lineup, but they have also changed their team principal. Let's start with the team principal. Christian Horner has left Red Bull and he is no longer with the team as Laurent Mecquier steps in to Christian Horner's position. But Christian Horner has not left F1 entirely. In fact, he has gone to a different team on the grid. Where though? You'll find out a little bit later, but Horner has not left F1. Lando Norris has signed for Red Bull with Pierre Gasly going up alongside him as their new lineup tries to take into effect. So why have Red Bull got rid of Christian Horner, and why have Red Bull then changed their driver lineup? We'll start some things off with the team principal side of things. There has been inevitable tension between Red Bull and Horner. Where is this stood from? Well, it's to do with the one driver that's now joined the team, and that was Lando Norris. When Ferrari were not offering Lando a contract and the sort of rumours started circulating in the paddock, this is when Red Bull felt like there was a perfect opportunity to put an offer on the table. So they did. But they didn't speak to Horner about the offer. They did it themselves. This angered Christian Horner, who didn't want Lando Norris at the team. Now, Lando then had a meeting with Red Bull without Christian Horner, and he said that he will sign the contract that has been put in front of him on one condition, and that is if Christian Horner left. Well, this was the time when Red Bull were trying to find a way to get rid of Horner, but Horner knew that Red Bull didn't want him anymore. So when a different team came knocking for Christian Horner, he decided to do what he wanted to do, and that was to join them. This opened the door for Lando Norris to jump in, and it all sorted itself out, with Laurent Mecquier definitely one that wanted Lando at the team, as they felt like his talent would definitely do Red Bull a whole lot of good. As for Pierre Gasly, he knew his time was up at Renault. He's been comfortably outperformed by Daniel Ricciardo for the last few seasons, and he's constantly felt like Renault haven't been listening to any of his feedback and have just been working with Daniel Ricciardo and leaving him for dust. Well, the time for change was now, and Red Bull decided to open the doors to Pierre Gasly to try and see if what Gasly was saying was very much true. Red Bull still feel like Lando Norris is going to be their primary driver, but Pierre Gasly says that he'll do what he can to make sure that he is the best possible suit to be a part of the team. And last things last, what about Red Bull? How have they been getting along? Well, flashback a year ago, and Red Bull were very much in a world of their own. They finished 6th in the Constructors' Championship last season, and it was overall a very disappointing year, bar the final rounds of the Grand Prix where Sebastian Vettel managed to claim a successful race victory at Sao Paulo. But Red Bull feel like they've definitely taken a step forwards going into the brand new year. They feel like that the car is overall a lot more well balanced compared to last year, and they definitely feel like that their primary weaknesses have been addressed. They're not quite sure if they believe they're going to be right at the very front, but they feel like they can use the momentum from the final round of last year and put that forwards into this year, with both drivers very happy and comfortable with the car. But as per with everybody else on the grid, time will tell whether they've made enough of an improvement to catch up to the drivers and the teams in front. The master of TikTok, Valtteri Bottas, has rejoined Mercedes-Benz for this F1 season. Mercedes have brought back Bottas, and Kimi Antonelli keeps his seat alongside the Finn. With Lewis Hamilton departing to go back to Ferrari again, Mercedes-Benz needed a driver, and Toto Wolff said that he wanted to keep Antonelli with an experienced driver alongside of him. So they decided to call on Bottas. But why did they decide to call on Valtteri? And why has Valtteri now had himself drive for a third different team in the last 3 seasons? 2 years ago, Valtteri Bottas was driving for Red Bull and narrowly missed out on the World Drivers' Championship after being beaten by the Mercedes of Tom at the end of the year. Valtteri Bottas then had a surprise offer from McLaren, and he decided to go ahead and take that offer. But now all of a sudden, he finds himself at Mercedes. So why have there been so many switches? Well, the deal with McLaren was actually a multi-year deal, but the team opted to try and get themselves a brand new driver lineup as quickly as possible, as they felt like things were just too hostile in the environment. For Valtteri, he also felt the same way. With all the internal investigations going on, with Zach Brown trying to win back team personnel after he decided to back Mark Davis in his inquest, it just was rather unsettling. Valtteri said that if none of that internal issues actually occurred throughout the year, he would have stayed at McLaren. But that just unsettled him enough that he decided to open the doors to an exit. And when Mercedes came along and offered a contract, he decided to go ahead and take it. So Mercedes did just that. Kimi Antonelli is a driver that Mercedes believe is going to be their star for the future, but they felt like that the experience that he was getting alongside Lewis Hamilton was what they needed, so they decided to go ahead and try and keep the experience there, so Bottas was the man to do it. Valtteri Bottas himself is very happy to be rejoining Mercedes, and he says that he cannot wait to lead the team going forward, as Valtteri has been playing second fiddle every time he's been at Mercedes. And he's also really enjoyed the fact that the past few years he's actually had an opportunity to lead teams. He was the lead driver at Red Bull. There was very much an even status at McLaren, but he feels like that he can use that lead status with Kimi Antonelli still just learning the ropes as he goes into his second season of Formula 1. So where are things then with pre-season testing? Well, they're not exactly giving signs of a team that's ready to be fighting at the front, because they say it's going to take time to fight at the front again. Mercedes, as we've said, have been a very unusual team. They started this rule set with the best car. They had the most dominant vehicle on the grid, and it's just been slowly slipping away. They started with pure dominance, which led to Hamilton winning the World Championship. Then the championship got a lot closer, but Tom was able to hold on against the Red Bull threat and win the title. But then it's continued to decline ever since, and that led to a shambolic, as Toto Wolff puts it, 7th in the Constructors' Championship. So Mercedes believe that while they think that their car is slightly better and is definitely improving in terms of the numbers, they still need a bit of time before you can see them right at the very front again, as just conceptually they've gone down a different route now, and they hope that it can try and elevate them further on. Where's the main weakness though of the Mercedes? It's the rear end stability. Whilst they're still relatively fast, the rear end is still having occasions of oversteer and the back end snapping out on the drivers. That's just losing them a little bit of confidence, and thus it's making them have some form of effect with their speed. They hope that they can bring some upgrades throughout the course of the season to secure it, but they're not expecting to be fighting at the front. They are expecting, though, to be closer than where they were. We continue with the streak of all new driver lineups in Formula 1, with Aston Martin the next team that was forced into an all-new driver lineup. With Tom and Oscar Piastri leaving the team, that has meant that Oliver Bearman and Liam Lawson have joined the team to create this brand new lineup. Aston Martin have been left angry after Tom and Piastri decided to leave the team at the back end of last year. While Aston Martin kind of expected Oscar Piastri to leave the team, they definitely didn't see Tom leaving the team, and that is something that has very much hurt them. But Aston Martin felt that they had put everything into a project that would allow Tom to definitely go ahead and win a championship, and that is something that they are disappointed that all of a sudden he has decided to leave. Aston Martin definitely started to struggle at the back end of the season, with Aston Martin at the start of last year definitely a very well-oiled competitive machine. But as the development race caught onwards, Porsche took a step clear, and Tom was having to put in what he called dangerous performances with the car just to try and stay within the championship battle. But where does that leave the team now? Well, first things first, Oliver Bearman and Liam Lawson completely understand that while Aston Martin felt like they had the dream project and two quick drivers, they believe that they are quick enough to replace those two drivers, and they feel happy that Aston Martin have trusted them two in particular to take over from Tom and Piastri. They'll now work together as a team to try and bring them back up to where they were at the start of last season. For Aston Martin as a team itself, they also expect to be a little bit slow off the blocks. But why particularly is this? Well, Aston Martin have fully admitted that they had built a car from last year and followed the development routes of Tom, who was in the championship battle against his cousin Reese, who was driving for Porsche. So when they continued this development war, there was plenty of plans going into this season to try and further elaborate and elevate the team and their status. But that's not happened because they don't have the driver that they were developing the car around. It meant now they want to reset and stop thinking about the driver and think more about the team and just getting the best possible car for the team and not solely focusing on a driver. In effect, they've been bitten in the back by the fact that their driver that they were building for is no longer there. So they do expect a slow start while they get a little bit of a reset going on. But then they're expecting plenty of room for improvement as Liam Lawson and Bearman give their input. So we'll see how Aston Martin shape up going into the first round of the season and where the development will put them going forwards. One of the most anticipated teams that the paddock was ready to see going into this Bahrain pre-season test were the world champions Porsche and the reigning World Drivers' Champion Reese. And he is now going to be joined alongside the man that took him in the championship battle to the end of last year, and that is Tom. Family members reunite as Tom joins Porsche to go alongside his World Championship cousin Reese. Tom has taken Leclerc's spot, and now the driver lineup is done. The champion and the runner-up going head-to-head in the same car for this year. So what was the reason for the move to Porsche in particular for Tom after leaving Aston Martin? Well, there have been conversations going along multiple times between Tom and Porsche about a potential drive going into the future seasons. But Porsche actually felt that whilst they dedicated their resources to helping Reese in the championship and then felt like he was now their main man as he had won the championship, they didn't quite think that Tom would want to be a part of that project. Also, they didn't think that Reese would want to have Tom join the team now that he is the main man of Porsche. But both parties thought differently. First things first, Reese has said that he called Tom to see if there was an opportunity that he would come and join him at Porsche. Reese says that after the rebuilds that has been going on between the team for the car for the past few years or so, that the environment within the team is brilliant and it's somewhere that he would love to be for this year. And that's exactly what Tom felt from the conversations he had. He also, on Tom's side of things, said that whilst Reese was indeed the man that Porsche were after, well, at the end of the day, he wants to fight anyone and be alongside anyone it's not a problem for him. And when it comes to family members, while the rivalry will definitely be there between the two of them, it's something that's quite well manageable. So with Porsche seeing that in mind, they decided to get the two drivers to go up against each other, just like they've done for the likes of Mercedes in the past. And it's a super exciting driver lineup. So, how do the world champions feel they're going to get on going into the new season? Well, Porsche feel confident and ready going into the new year, but they definitely expect the field to be neck and neck, and the advantage that they believe they had going into for the majority of last year is going to be wiped clean, with multiple other teams finding new and different ways to improve their cars. They also take reference from Mercedes-Benz, as Mercedes dominated the season and then the pack closed up and it completely flipped. So they're not taking anything for granted, and they'll see where they stand and what they need to do to make the car even faster. But as things stand, Porsche have got the confidence, and now they've got the drivers. BMW have a lot to learn from the previous season, as they were the only team in the championship to fail to score a point last year. So moving into this year, a lot of things need to change. And they've done just that with a brand new driver lineup. Nico Rosberg has decided as team principal that he needed a new driver lineup to try and shuffle things around, to bring some fortune back towards BMW and get them to where they feel like they deserve to be, which is at the front of the field. And as things stand, BMW have been far from that. George Russell is going to be leading the team, with Isaac Hadjar promoted to Formula 1 to partner alongside the experienced Brit. Nico Rosberg felt like he wanted a leader to be a part of his team and a rookie driver to go alongside him to use the experience to learn not only from the driver on the track, but the team principal on the pit wall. George Russell says that he is ready to lead the team and is looking forward to taking on a brand new challenge after leaving McLaren to come and join BMW. He says that the project is very, very exciting and that he has a lot of ambitions to go ahead and be successful with the team, and he genuinely believes that BMW are the team that can do that. As for Isaac Hadjar, well, he's super excited to be joining BMW and also to be making his debut in Formula 1. Isaac Hadjar said that there was plenty of opportunities out there for him to go ahead and sign for multiple different teams. He says that he had at least 3 teams that were trying to get his signature, but he went for BMW. But why? Well, it was Nico Rosberg that was able to pull Hadjar over towards his team, as he said that after the phone call that Rosberg gave to Isaac Hadjar, his mind was made. He said that Rosberg was ready to put trust and faith into him and just gave him the opportunity to express his true feelings in a Formula 1 car, and just gave him a project that he said that was going to work. And, well, let's find out if that's the case. But what have BMW been up to during the winter break, and have they been able to address all the issues that caused them to not be able to get into the points? Well, as things stand at the moment, they actually looked alright in pre-season testing. They weren't exactly lighting up the timing screens. They definitely did that on day 1 of the pre-season tests, but then it started to settle down a little bit for the team. But they genuinely do believe like they've made some very good progress with this car all round, from the straight line speed efficiency to slow speed, medium speed cornering. They once again don't believe that they're going to be in contention for fighting for podiums and race wins. But they do believe that they have got a car where there is definite room for progress, and they also believe that this is an opportunity for them to finally break the duct and get some points on the championship board. There's only one team in Formula 1 that has decided not to change their driver lineup for this brand new season, and that goes to Audi. Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz continue their partnership together with the German team going into the brand new year, but unfortunately for them, it has been a disaster of a winter, and it was lucky that the team was in pre-season at all. Audi suffered an awful winter break with major engine issues, but why is this the case? Well, Audi decided for the brand new year that they were going to build a completely new engine. And to do this, they had to take a lot of time and development away from other areas of the car to try and do this. But unfortunately, it completely backfired, as the new engine had serious deployment issues throughout the course of their testing that they were doing over the winter. A lot of things had to be changed, and it was all emergency cases. This actually then held back the aerodynamic and the chassis departments. Without an engine being able to go into the car, it meant that those two departments weren't able to finalize everything on the car because they just didn't know what needed to change on the engine, whether it was going to be a little bit smaller, whether it had to be bigger, etc, etc. So it was a real rush against time to get everything sorted for the team. Audi, though, in fairness to them, have been able to keep that brand new engine that they have built in the car. But as we said, because they had so much time spent trying to get the engine working in the first place, it has meant that other areas of the car have been stepped back dramatically. Now, Audi do expect a very rough start to the season and are hoping for damage limitation. There are plenty of developments in the pipeline which they do hope will bring the team further forwards as the races go on, but unfortunately it does mean that they're starting on the back foot, so are going to be playing catch up. However, Audi's team principal is not too worried about this in the long run. With Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz at the wheel, they say that that's not really going to be an issue in terms of the damage limitation side, because they've got two elite drivers at the wheel. It'll definitely work for them. But the key question is, when it comes to turning the power up on these cars and going into racing trim, can that new Audi engine hold up? Or is it going to fail? If there was a team that wanted to hit the headlines throughout the winter break, well, it was Renault, and it's been officially announced that Christian Horner is the new team principal of Renault F1. After leaving Red Bull, it was quite clear that Christian Horner was still interested in staying in the Formula 1 paddock, and it was Renault that came calling, and Christian Horner decided that he was to join the Enstone team. Not only that, but Horner also managed to take Sebastian Vettel with him, and he's got his driver lineup sorted with an old German pairing with Nico Hülkenberg returning to Formula 1 to make a very, very interesting driver lineup. So where did this all come about? Well, first of all, Christian Horner, after leaving Red Bull, had made it abundantly clear that he had no plans to make a way from Formula 1 and had no plans on taking the break. So this meant that when he made this announcement after he had left the team with Red Bull, there were many teams interested in taking Christian Horner along with them. In the end, it was Renault that Horner decided to stay alongside with, as he felt like it was a very interesting project, one that was almost on the verge of booming, but it just needed a little bit of something to keep the project alive. So he decided to go with him. So why is it then that Sebastian Vettel decided to leave Red Bull and go to Renault? Well, first things first, Vettel and Horner have got a great relationship/partnership. So it was quite clear that once Horner had announced that he had left and joined Renault, there was instant talk that Vettel would go with him, and eventually he did. He said that he fully supports and backs Christian Horner, and when Horner gave him the phone call to say that he wanted him to race with Renault, it was clear that Vettel was always going to leave. But what wasn't always clear was who was going to partner Vettel at Renault. See, initially, Horner wanted Isaac Hadjar to join the team and race alongside Vettel in a similar style to what BMW are currently doing, where they are the team that have got an experienced racer to go and partner the rookie of Isaac Hadjar. But Hadjar decided that he didn't want to race at Renault and that he decided to join BMW. This was one of the teams that opted to go in for Hadjar but failed. So, what did they need to do next? Well, they were running out of time. They'd made multiple different offers to Hadjar and really pushed hard in the talks. But with seats now filling up, it was difficult for them to get somebody in, and they didn't really have enough trust and faith in anybody else. So they turned to their junior scout Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg was already at Renault and was doing a lot of work behind the scenes, trying to monitor junior drivers and scouting to see who would be the best ones to go into the new Renault program. But when Christian Horner was running out of ideas, Sebastian Vettel was the one that went to Horner and said that Hülkenberg is a very strong driver. Why not give him the chance to show what he could do? And Horner agreed with what Vettel was suggesting. So they went to Hülkenberg and offered him a contract to race with the team and alleviate his roles as the junior scout. Nico Hülkenberg took a little bit of time to consider the offer, but in the end felt like it was the right thing to do as he took inspiration from Sebastian Vettel, who was initially going to be the BMW team principal, but then when it came to going back into the race car, as is now the case with Vettel joining Renault, it's quite clear that Vettel still has that love for racing and wanted to continue in the cockpit. So now it's Hülkenberg's opportunity to do just that. Finally, for Renault themselves, they've had an okay pre-season testing. It's quite clear that the whole new change in dynamic between team principals and driver lineups, etc., has meant that there's been a little bit of uncertainty on some areas. They definitely have some work to do. They've been a team that's traditionally been very quick in high-speed circuits, where it's all about top-end speed. So now it's about building consistency, and once they get that, they'll be absolutely fine. More work to be done, but with Vettel and Hülkenberg now at the wheel led by Horner, could this be a team that's going to be on the rise? Last and certainly not least, it's time to look at Jaguar and see what they get up to over the winter break. And they have got their main man. Fernando Alonso has signed Daniel Ricciardo from Renault to join alongside Alex Albon, who Alonso says is absolutely fine and is staying at the team for another year. Fernando Alonso, when he joined as team principal last season, made it abundantly clear that he was going to use last year as the opportunity to really have a look heavily into every area of the team, from the entire personnel on and off the track, to see who really needed to be moved on and who was ready to step up. In terms of Alex Albon, Fernando Alonso said that he had done enough to stay at the team for another year, but says that every single person is always on a knife edge, as if they underperform, they could potentially see themselves out. But for Fernando Alonso, he really wanted to sign Daniel Ricciardo as his #1 target. Alonso felt like Liam Lawson just wasn't the right driver to maintain a seat in Formula 1 with their team, so they went after Ricciardo. It was a very long-haul negotiation, as Daniel Ricciardo still had a contract offer available to extend his period at Red Bull. Christian Horner still wanted to keep Daniel Ricciardo at Renault after he joined the team and had brought along Sebastian Vettel. And with Vettel and Ricciardo having history in the past, it wasn't exactly going to be a partnership that would have looked like being a problem for them. So Renault could have easily have had a great driver lineup. So why did Daniel Ricciardo decide to make the move? Well, Daniel Ricciardo felt that he had been the team leader for multiple seasons at Renault, and the project was just never coming alive. He was always overperforming, but the team was under-delivering. He just felt like with the whole new fresh personnel, it definitely would have made a difference, but he felt like it would have made him a bit more of an outcast, especially with where they thought the project was going to go. He felt like that Christian Horner and Sebastian Vettel would almost be working together, even though one was in the car and one was out of the car, leaving the second driver a little bit more out of the way. He felt like that being partnered with Fernando Alonso would give him the opportunity to have that type of dynamic, where you've got a key experienced driver going alongside a key experienced world champion as the team principal. He felt like that was the right move for him, so he went and done that. Overall, for the team themselves, they think they have fixed their main issues over the course of the winter. Now, for Jaguar, they've been in a similar boat to Renault, whereby they had brilliant top-end speed, but were lacking in all of the corners around the track. They felt like they've been able to add plenty of downforce on the car, things are working well, and they're hoping that this will be a season where they can elevate themselves a little bit further. But that is all of the teams now unveiled for pre-season. The final thing to discover going into the brand new season is where we're actually going to be racing. Well, first things first, Formula 1 have announced that it was going to be an 18 race calendar, just like we had last season. There are going to be a couple of tweaks, not only to what races that we are going to, but also in the order in which the races will be run. First things first, there will be no Portuguese or Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, as both of those have dropped off the calendar, with the Miami Grand Prix and also the Shanghai Grand Prix in China returning for this year. And as I said, there has been a slight twist in terms of what races we will be going to first. So, let's get straight into it. The first round of the season will be the Australian Grand Prix, getting its place back as the starting point for the Formula 1 season, and it will then be an Asian tour from that point onwards. Round number 2 will be the Japanese Grand Prix, followed by the return of the Chinese Grand Prix as the third round of the season, and then the Formula 1 circus moves to the humid streets of Singapore. Once we have done that leg of the season, then it will move into the Middle Eastern Tour, where we have all of our desert races. First things off, we go to Qatar for round number 5. Then we go to the Streets of Speed, which is Saudi Arabia, followed by the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, with Bahrain, which has been hosting the opening rounds of the season for the past 2 years, moving to round 8 of the year, so quite later in comparison to where it has been before. Round number 9 sees our European leg as we go to the British Grand Prix, the home of Formula 1 and motorsport, with round number 10, the Temple of Speed at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. The 11th round of the season is the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, followed by the Styrian Hills of Austria, taking us for the 12th round of the season, with the final round of the European leg being round number 13, taking place at the Belgian Grand Prix. Round number 14 sees Canada keep its spot on the calendar, and then it's a triple US leg. First things first, we have the Miami Grand Prix as round number 15. Then they will go to the streets of Vegas for round number 16. Then they will go to the US Grand Prix, which will be taking place at COTA. Then the final round of the season, as it has been now for the past year or so, is going to be the Brazilian Grand Prix. And that is the 18-round calendar season that we will get for this year. You have now seen all of the teams. You've seen their brand new liveries, you've seen their brand new driver lineups, you've even seen some brand new team principles. So that is everything for the F1 Journey season number 13. All we've got left to do is get some racing underway, and you will see that very, very soon. But hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, drop it a like, subscribe if you're new around here as well, and I will see you guys for the first round of this brand new Formula 1 F1 Journey season at the Australian Grand Prix. Take care all. Peace.